Heather, your family has lived in Toolangi for a number of generations. Can you tell us about them coming here, how long they've been here, and what brought them to Toolangi and where they first settled?
Okay, well, apparently my great-grandfather came here in the late 1800s, I presume for the timber. They settled here and bought quite a bit of land. I don't know whether it was a father and two sons or three boys, but the Lawrence family had quite a bit of land here. So they stayed for, I don't quite know how long, but many generations, or a couple of generations, I think, for them. They had one stepson he had, and they had three more girls after they came here. So that's how they came. What did you ask me next?
How many generations?
How many generations? There was, well, going now, we can count up to 6 generations now.
So four to you and 2 more down to your grandchildren.
Benny, if you could just lean back there.
Yep. That's better? Yep. Okay.
Okay, keep going.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, so that's 6 generations. So my grandmother was a Lawrence who lived down on the bottom of the road here, Cherry Road.
I noticed your house was called Lawrence's Landing.
Yes, yeah, we named that after them. Yeah. So and then our grandmother Annie Lawrence married Walter Cherry, and then they had their family here. They built a house up here, which we ended up moving into later in life. So, and they had 5 children, and then I married, and then I had another 3 children, and yeah, so we've got 7 grandchildren now, but unfortunately none of them live in Toolangi anymore. So, so that's and it was the timber industry that brought them here. I don't know much about what they did for entertainment or anything in those days, but they
owned mills?
I presume so, yes. They cleared lots of land between here and Spraggs Road, and yeah, I'm not quite sure where they had their mill, but it was here somewhere. Apparently there was a landing down the bottom of the Cherry Road here before the bridge that they used. I couldn't tell you where their mill was though. Some of the children went to school. I think some of the records were burnt once when a school burnt down, but I presume the 3 girls that they had went to the primary school here, but I'm not 100% sure.
And that would have been in the early 1900s?
Yes, would have been in the 1900s, yeah.
Early 1900s?
Yeah. Yes, and...
So 120 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. So then the next generation, my father and I don't know, one of his sisters at least went to the school down there, and his brother. And then, yeah, my children have been through the school too, and yeah, that's it.
And Bruce, you've been in Toolangi for about 50 years now.
Yeah, that's right. That's a very good question. Not very much, because I got lost going home the first time I came up here, bringing Heather home from a dance, and it was mostly gravel roads, and my impression was it's really in the bush, to be honest.
Heather, can you tell us a little bit about when you met Bruce and how you induced him to Toolangi?
Sounds like it was a big job. We met at the Yarra Glen dance, as most couples from up here met their partner down at the Yarra Glen dance. I remember Bruce wasn't impressed with Toolangi because he got lost in the fog going home once and almost ran out of petrol. So he was not very impressed, but I don't know, something kept making him come back, and he's been happy since he settled here.
We could probably answer that question better than Heather.
Definitely. And you're a Yarra Glen boy?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, and the Yarra Glen dance was where everyone went. Like we went with our parents when we were young kids. and kept going. That's all there really was. And to add to what Heather said, I spotted this skinny piece across the room and asked her for a dance, and went home and told my mother I'd met the girl I was going to marry. And I did.
The first night?
Yes, on the Sunday morning.
Wow.
If only I'd known that.
Heather, you were both very involved in the community. Can you tell us a bit about the social side of the community in your early married days? The schools, the dances, the celebrations?
Yes, well, early in the piece there wasn't a lot of social side because we were, you know, in the days where the husband worked and the wife looked after the children. It wasn't until a little bit later, once the kids went to school, I became involved in the Mothers Club. Bruce was always in the CFA. What else did we do? We had to do a lot of fundraising for everything in those days. So I guess the fundraising was your social life. Then the tennis club became a fairly big part of my life. And then even Bruce, eventually, as we got older, he even joined the tennis club and learnt to play tennis. Otherwise, social life...
Progressive dinners?
Yes,
a lot of
lots of,
progressive
yeah, as I
dinners.
said, fundraising, things like progressive dinners,
Oh God, I remember those.
fetes and stalls and...
Annual ball once a
An
year.
annual ball. The fire brigade used to run an annual ball to fundraise again. But you had to make your own fun up here. We, during the holidays, we would, a couple of girlfriends and I, would take the kids on their bikes. We might ride up St Leonard's Road, up to the quarry. You know, we'd light a fire, we'd cook barbecue sausages, make billy tea, and then ride home, and that filled in a day for the kids, you know. We used to do lots of things like that. And the kids they just played in the bush. I didn't see them much of a weekend, holidays. They had to make their own fun too. So, yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about your involvement in the CFA?
Mine, I didn't join until much later, mainly because of the siren and what do they call it? The ERS or something?
ERS.
ERS system. So Bruce made me join because, you know, just because I was involved with that. And then later on, as the children grew up, I decided I'd better become part of it too. So I did the training that you have to do, and I used to go to a few incidents, but I used to always stand fairly well back. I didn't get too involved, so yeah.
And Bruce, you've had a wide range of employment and involvement since you came to live in Toolangi, which embraces a lot of the local history over the last 50 years. Can you tell us a bit about that, your early days farming and your other involvement?
Work-wise, well, I worked at OH Cables for 16 years as an electrician.
At Lilydale.
At Lilydale, and then after going with Heather a few years, I decided I'd like to go farming here, which I think her father was quite pleased about. Keep a property in the family, so I did, and I did it for not a lot of years because not enough land and farming changed. It went bulk, and
What were you farming?
I grew strawberry runners, potatoes, Swedes and carrots, and in a small way. And I bought a truck and did a bit of marketing for my stuff, and a guy called Jack Ebbles and Peter Perry. I did a cart of stuff into the market for them and myself. And then I decided that I didn't have enough land, so I finished doing it.
Was that the Vic Market you brought?
Yeah, Victoria Market, yeah, in Footscray Market. And when I stopped farming, I decided I'd put poultry manure on this property, and I went and bought a few loads. And two of the farmers here, Jack Ebbles and Peter Perry, said, "Oh, we'll have so many loads of that." And that's how I got into the trucking business. And it ended up with a couple of contracts from the mushroom farm, and it got quite big in the end.
So most of the contracts were coming from the local area?
Yeah, oh yes, definitely here. And as the business got bigger, it spread sort of throughout Victoria, and yeah, and that's about it in a nutshell.
And can you tell us a bit about your involvement with the CFA?
Yes, I can't remember all the dates, but I joined the CFA when I was 16 at Coldstream.
So I think we worked it out, you've been in it for 61 years.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
When I came up here, Alec Denby was captain, and he said, "Would you be captain?" I said, "No, I didn't have time." So they called a meeting, and the regional officer came up and more or less said, "Do it, or the brigade will be shut down. We'll take the truck away." So I come home, not very happy, but I ended up doing it, and did it for a number of years.
What year did you first become captain?
That's a good question.
How old were the kids?
They were quite young. The kids were quite young. I think you were captain for somewhere near 23 years or something, from my memory,
Right
wasn't
up
it?
to the fires.
Yeah.
No, he had a break in between. You weren't captain there for a while.
A couple of years before the fires, I stood down, and another member took it on, and then he gave it away. So I took it on again for 1 year. I said I'd do it for 1 year till I got another captain. Well, that happened to be the Black Saturday year, and and I stayed involved in it for quite a while after Black Saturday, but I haven't recently because of, well, my age. I think, you know, you've got to give it up sooner or later. I'm still a member, but I don't participate in any firefighting. But yeah, I mean, I learned a lot out of it, and yeah.
One of the things I was going to ask, it's a real family commitment, and as Heather has pointed out.
Definitely, especially in the older days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, and both you and Heather were involved long term in the end.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about why that commitment's so important to a community like this?
Family commitment.
Yeah, the commitment to the CFA.
Well, here, as I saw it, we're quite remote, and in those days we didn't have the fire vehicles that we have now. Slower, it took longer to get help here. So, like we used a couple of farm trucks to carry water and whatever. We just felt it was necessary, you know, to protect the place. Toolangi didn't get a lot of fires, but I just felt it was necessary, and so did a lot of other people, the older people. And I mean, that was proved on Black Saturday. We got hit pretty hard up here, and as you know, and yeah, it's sort of one of those things that the community needed, and people responded to that need.
And Heather, you've seen a lot of change in the community in
Yes.
recent years. What's the most significant changes you've seen happening up here?
What would that be? First, it was the land opening up, the bush, you know, disappearing a bit, and more farms coming into play.
When did that happen?
That was back probably in the 60s, I would think. Yeah, mostly 60s, 50s, yeah, 60s, and it's happened a lot more. I've probably seen, well, we've seen a lot of the timber mills go. They're basically all gone now. What else have we seen? We've seen different sort of people coming up to the area now. A lot moving up from down the line, just wanting smaller properties, but they like the lifestyle. The school has come and gone a bit. It's had great numbers there at one stage, and then they dwindle, and then they'll come back again. So that varies quite a lot. We've seen things, you know, changes like the river from being, you know, a nice little rock bottom stream to not so clean and rock bottom anymore. What else have we seen? I don't feel it's quite as cold nowadays as it used to be.
That's interesting.
yeah. Change, other than that, well, things that we've lost. I think once transport became available, when I was a little kid, not many people had cars, and women certainly didn't drive, so everything stayed within, you know, you went shopping once a week maybe if you were lucky.
To Hillsville.
To Hillsville usually, yeah, and you'd go to your parents' sports for your entertainment. That would be your entertainment for the weekend. But as cars came into play, people they can drive, they can go further for other things. So we've lost actually our post office, our hotel burnt down, our church closed. What else have we lost? We haven't even got a shop or a tavern or anything up here at the moment, you know.
And when Kelly's had the store, you had the petrol pump there too.
Yes, you could get fuel, you could buy a small amount of groceries and that. You got your mail. We had bread and milk deliveries way back some of the time that I can remember. We have no services now. We all just have to drive for all that. So I guess, yeah, that's probably the biggest change, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd just like to add something about the fire brigade.
Go ahead.
When I came here, they had a Willys, which was not operating, and the young guy down the road, Nicky Kelly, come up and helped me get it going. And over the years, we battled to get a fire truck. We got an Austin, and I can't give you the time when it was, but that was
Through the CFA or through?
No, through the
community
CFA,
funding?
yeah. And then we got an International, and then in latter years we got a Hino, and we had a new station built, just a tin shed. At the moment, we have one of the best fire stations around for the size of our brigade. It's 3 bays. In it is a CFA fire tanker, a brigade-owned tanker. The CFA tanker is 3,000 litres, a 2,000 litre brigade-owned tanker, and we just have not long ago had delivery of a Land Cruiser slip-on. Slip-on. And we've got everything that opens and shuts. We've purchased a lot of it. One of the main reasons we've got a lot of this, we were given a lot of money after the fires, and I must say, I stood down after the fires, but I must compliment the brigade on the way they've handled the money. It's been very, very, very well administrated.
That's excellent.
We always battled, never had any money.
Right. So it's a change scene, and I think the thinking has changed a lot since the 2009 fires.
Yes.
I think that made people a lot more aware. Yeah. I think, having said all that though, you have to give credit to people like Alec Denby, who after the 39 fires
definitely.
realised that Toolangi needed some sort of fire vehicle, even if it was only small in those days. And he got the brigade going and gave it his all. And then, yeah, everyone else, like people like Bruce, who have been really determined, they've kept it going. And now that Bruce is stepping down a bit, the people that are in there now are keeping it going beautifully, you know.
We have excellent officers and administrators. Yes.
Community spirit.
It is.
That's great community spirit.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, from one truck to what they've got now, you know, is wonderful, you know.
Fantastic. Yeah.
One thing that Toolangi hasn't had and doesn't have, which is in a lot of brigades, I believe, only hearsay, we have never had any politics, very few politics.
Can I ask both of you, Bruce, first, what's so special about Toolangi and Castella to you?
Sorry,
What's special about Toolangi and Castella to you after 50 years here?
The location, I think it's great. The air, I think it's a lot clearer, harder to breathe down the line than up here. I like the atmosphere, people, and we've made some great friends up here. It's very free. It's just a lovely place. It's a bit cold, but then again, everywhere is at times. Yeah.
And Heather, what's
to me,
very special about Toolangi?
Have a look out there, out the window. Yeah, I can see Mount St Leonard from where I'm sitting, and I always have been able to, you know. I don't know, just, yeah, the people. The bush, I like the bush. I like the trees. Yep. Yep.
Now, can I ask both of you, are there any funny or great stories of characters from the area? Or is there anything that either of you would like to add that we haven't covered?
Well, a little story fire brigade wise. They have such things as strike teams, and I think you're aware what a strike team is, Bernie. It's a number of trucks and a number of people, and they have a strike team leader. And I was fortunate enough to become a strike team leader, and we went to Gippsland and all over Victoria. Went to Sydney once. New South Wales. As Bernie come on her first strike team with me, I believe.
One of them,
Yeah, and I do have stories I could tell about Bernie on that strike team, but I won't on film. But and I think seriously, I think Bernie learnt a lot about the CFA on strike teams. That's where most of us learnt. It's one positive the CFA did was to create the strike team system. Got used to working with other people. It's like in a job, you get used to working with the same people all the time, you get a bit stale. But if you go to other places and other areas, their methods are different, and you'll learn to accept different situations.
Absolutely.
And I won't go into that thing you did while we were away, Bernie.
Thing you did. That's lovely, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
And great characters from the area, or
Oh,
stories
yeah.
from the area?
Oh, look, they could. We could go on all day,
Yeah.
and we could have a comedy session on what's happened. But you can't, we're not going to do that. Just a couple of funny things that just happened. My dad had a very dry sense of humour, and he didn't always tell Mum what was going on at times. So one time he borrowed the battery out of her car, and we live on the hill, as you know, so she somehow or other got the car. It probably sometimes didn't start, so she roll started it down the hill. It fires up and goes, so she drives up onto the main road round to the new post office that was there, and got there all right, and then stops the car, and then goes out and it won't start. So Tony Kelly, who was the owner of the store then, gave her a push round to the hill, round the corner, and it still wouldn't start. So he lifts the bonnet up and he says to her, well, no wonder there's no battery in it, Claire. So she curses Dad because she knew where the battery would have gone. Another time, we had a wombat under the house that used to scratch, his back on, as they do, but he upset the electrical wires on our fan heater, and Dad wasn't really pleased with him about that. So he must have heard the wombat one night when we were watching TV, and he never said a word. I wasn't home that night, thank goodness. He didn't say a word to Mum, sneaks out, gets his 303, goes around and under the veranda because it was a high house, and shines the light in there and lets fire and shoots the wombat. And Mum nearly went through the roof, and Nana. He just comes in grinning, leaves the wombat there under the house so that Mum and Nana Mum had to crawl under and tie a rope on its leg and pull it out a day or so later. So, you could go on forever with funny stories about Toolangi, but it's about the people probably, though, more so.
The old girls in that area had a great sense of humour.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And they got along well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I was a new boy up here, and I got helped by a couple of farmers, being Peter Perry and Jack Ebbles. I was a bit green, and they pushed me in the right direction. Yeah.
It took Bruce a while to get accepted, I think. He apparently went up to the local hotel one night to buy a bottle of beer because we had visitors or something, and anyway, he couldn't get served.
Stood there.
They just ignored him for a while until one of the locals finally, dragged him forward and said to the bartender, "Aren't you going to serve this man?" And after that, he was okay.
I was in then. I was right.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Breaking the ice.
Yeah, breaking the ice. Yep.
Thank you, Bruce.
That's okay.
Right.